Diddy's lawyers have filed a new appeal, but Christopher Melcher's here to tell us the truth. He might actually get this one. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. I know many of you have made your opinions on Diddy. I have as well, but everybody has the right to process to a fair trial. Christopher Melcher's here to break it down. Welcome back, sir. How you doing?
Pretty good. Glad to be here.
This is interesting. You sent me this and you told me that he might have a shot at this. And I wanted to break down what this means for folks who are sort of confused. What do you mean he's going to get out an appeal? Everyone sort of thought he lost that appeal and he was going to be there till trial, but he's now making some new claims. Can you explain to the audience?
Sure. Just so a little bit of background, because I know we have viewers from all different places with different systems. Here in federal court in the United States, there is no absolute right to bail, meaning that the government can hold a criminal defendant in detention, in custody, awaiting their trial. But we also have to balance that against the fact that there's a presumption of innocence in the United States. So, the prosecutor has to establish these charges beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, and he maintains a presumption of innocence until that happens, which could be way far between then. So how do we hold him in jail? Well, normally these people would be released. They would post a bond, where basically an insurance company would step up and say, hey, if Diddy doesn't show up in court, he flees, we'll pay all this money. Diddy offered a $50 million bond. So that's a lot of money to secure his promise to appear. Of course, he has a lot more money than that. So would that dissuade him? That's what the government said. But also we got to keep in mind that his homes were raided 6 months ago. And so he clearly knew that he was in the crosshairs of the government for at least 6 months. He didn't flee. And as a matter of fact, he arranged through his lawyer to surrender in court in New York. He was there in a hotel room the night before he was arrested, waiting to show up in court to be booked. And we all saw that the government swooped in, grabbed him out of his hotel room and arrested him the night before he was going to voluntarily surrender. So to me, that looked like a guy who was going to appear in court. And since they went against the plan, apparently, for him to surrender and swooped in and took him, it appeared to me right at the moment that they must have believed that he was trying to intimidate or dissuade witnesses from testifying. And that'd be a really good reason to hold him in custody. And that's exactly what the government said. Now, he went to a hearing. The judge heard some argument and said, no, we're going to hold you in custody. And that was remarkable because a lot of these rich guys get out. Now, the thing is, there was a hearing, but how much time did Diddy have to really prepare for that? Not much. The government holds all the cards. So now he's filed an appeal, and this goes to a higher court. Under federal law, that appellate court has to do an independent review of it. So they're not going to defer to what the trial court said. They're going to say, give me your evidence, give me the arguments, both sides, and we, appellate court, will make a decision. And I think he has a decent shot at it, and we can get into some of the reasons for it in a minute.
Well, it's interesting because many people have said, that this was all part of the plan so they could get more people to come forward, because we've seen many people come forward, RICO charges, et cetera, that he's kind of like a mafia boss and he still has control and power. And so people are just afraid. And yes, during that hearing, they made it sound like he was intimidating witnesses. But now we're discovering through this document, which we don't actually have, but we're reading through sources. But Chris, you said there was a point here where he may not have even been able to, he may not have even met some of these witnesses or knew of these witnesses that they allege he was reaching out and harassing.
Well, so here's the nuance on this. It's very difficult as a criminal defendant. Okay. And again, I'm not, defending Diddy. But I think if some of you are listening to this and getting upset to thinking, oh, wow, Diddy could get out. The lens or the test that I always use is, what if it were me in jail? What if it were a loved one of mine in jail? What standard would I want applied to me or that loved one? If we use that, we're usually going to be guided a lot more than saying, hey, we hate this guy and think he did it and who cares what happens to him. So what is difficult in these cases when you're claiming witness intimidation or trying to bribe a witness is that Diddy knows everyone who's involved as an alleged victim or co-participant by the nature of the allegations, right? So he didn't do anything to complete strangers, allegedly. He did things to people he knew. That's the allegation. So the fact that he would have contact with those people would maybe be natural because he knows these people, number one. Number two, a lot of them are suing him. So he has a right to at least have his lawyers contact them, or he might want to contact them and try to work something out or whatever. So here he is being sued by a bunch of people who claim that things happened to them. He knows some of those people or other people. He's out there maybe having contact with those folks, maybe because of the civil case, maybe to dissuade them from testifying, who knows. But what the government apparently is going on is saying, hey, Diddy, you knew that these people were going to be witnesses against you in the criminal case, and you thereafter contacted them, which, is kind of a thought that, hey, that should have been hands off. And so we think you're suspicious here of trying to dissuade them. Well, Diddy's coming back in his filing yesterday, and it looks like what he's saying is he didn't even know for sure until 2 days ago, October 7th, that who these witnesses necessarily were going to be, because the government on October 7th released their affidavits in support of the search warrants to Diddy's counsel, meaning that there's declarations by law enforcement saying here is the people we talked to base these search warrants on. And he's apparently saying he didn't know the full detail of that until 2 days ago. Therefore, the contacts that he had with these people in September, a month ago, could not have been with knowledge that they were going to necessarily provide this testimony against him in a criminal case. That's what it appears he's arguing. He's also saying that the government withheld that information when it made its bail pitch, or no bail pitch, I should say, when they picked him up. So he's saying, look, that the government fairly should have told the court when they were alleging that he was intimidating witnesses that he had not even been informed of some of this information that the government was alleging, who exactly were the witnesses, what exactly were they going to say. He didn't even have that information, apparently, when they claimed that he was contacting them for the purpose of dissuading those people from being witnesses in the criminal case. So a lot of action is going to happen. The guy's so, I say, I'm not good at predicting the outcomes of this, but I would say he has a fair shake at getting out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to hide my bias. I feel like he's guilty based on a lot of stuff we've seen. But I also have to admit, everybody has the right to a fair trial, right? And we have to look at everybody innocent until proven guilty. Now, granted, we saw him on the tape with Cassie. This dude's guilty of bad stuff. And it does seem like there's too many people coming forward that this is just, they're all shakedowns. So it does seem like, something's there. But it's frustrating if the government didn't really provide the evidence. Like, you do have to provide, like, here's who's coming after you and here's the allegations, so he can then defend himself, just like you'd want that, right? You don't want the government to just suddenly surprise you with a bunch of stuff and say, "Whoops, sorry." So this is interesting to hear, and I hate to defend Diddy because I'm not, but I defend everybody's right to a fair trial. And if we don't have a fair trial, Chris, right, that puts the whole thing in jeopardy because he could get off. I mean, it's like the Alec Baldwin thing, where I do believe Alec Baldwin bared some responsibility, but the prosecutor was so overzealous and didn't really put the, dot all the I's and cross the T's, that he was able to get out based on their bad work. And that's the last thing we want here, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like I say, there's unfortunately, kind of a two-tier justice system in the United States. It's not anywhere written that way, but we all know somebody that's rich and powerful gets treated a lot different in a criminal case than somebody who doesn't have money or power. This is the exception, where we got a rich and powerful person sitting there in jail, waiting trial for potentially a year or more. So this is the exception. Some people might say, hey, that's the way a lot of other people are treated. That's the way he should be treated also. And I can definitely understand that. But I would just point out, very difficult to organize your defense from a jail cell. So, his life is on the line on this thing, or his freedom at least is on the line for this, for maybe the rest of his life in prison, and try to coordinate a defense. He has no access to his phone, no access to his records, no access to assistants or other people who can help him gather the information to potentially disprove some of these allegations. Instead, he has to wait till his lawyer shows up and talk to them, without any, the ability that regular folks, out of custody would have. So again, it's a balancing test. And the fact that he is alleged to have done certain things is not a basis to hold him in custody. The primary reason is he going to show up in court? Is he going to obstruct justice or commit other crimes? That is the reason to hold him in custody, not because he's alleged to have done horrible things in the past.
Yeah, and I remember when we were covering this, $50 million is a drop in the bucket for Diddy to avoid jail for the rest of his life. I mean, is there even a place he could fly off to and get away with it? Like, wouldn't he be extradited from any other country that he would even consider running to?
Yeah, that's another really good point. And you I think you'd make a great lawyer. And it's like, where does Diddy hide? Okay, so Diddy does not hide anywhere. He's unmistakable, recognizable anywhere in the world he goes, especially if he's on the run. The arm of the law will grab him. He would be free for, whatever, if he fled for probably a period of days or weeks at the most until he's brought back, and he'll never see the light of day after that. So yeah, the 50 million is not a lot. I think though, like I say, he looked like he was going to cooperate. Now the fact that he's been sitting there for 2+ weeks in a federal, MDC jail cell, who knows? Maybe he wasn't going to run before, and now if he gets a taste of freedom, he's going to be gone. There's always a risk of that. But again, where does Diddy hide?
Good questions, and a question to ask yourself. I know you all have considered him guilty and want him behind bars, but is that the right legal thing to do? That's the question. We will find out through this appellate court, this new one, and see what happens. But as we've been saying a lot,
hold on to your butts.
Unclear where it's going to go. This case keeps surprising all of us, and we will keep you updated along the way, as will Christopher Melcher. Make sure to follow him over on Twitter at @CA_divorce, and make sure you subscribe here. Hit that subscribe button, but also hit the bell so when you get those notifications, you can click the like to help the algorithm, get the word out. Leave your comments down below. We got some more with Chris, so stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for watching.